It's called Restrung. Some reach deep into purses and pull out wrinkled Ziploc bags. Others bring their broken jewelry in original department store boxes topped with gold stickers, or in creaky hinged vessels that bite shut on your fingers. Once, I fixed a charm bracelet that had broken into 3 parts. Each section was linked together with a frail twist tie, and she had worn it that way for 4 years. I could feel the bracelet's nocturnal quality, how it would have been content to coil into the velvety dark corners of a jewelry box. Here at Dawn's Hide and Bead Away, the women exposed their jewelry to the bright light for repairs. I brace for the explanations and apologies, the self-scoldings. This is cheap, this is outdated, this is silly, they say. A head shakes and says, it's not real. Then they lean over the counter, presenting it to me with both hands, like a gift. Sometimes there is a story to help explain their attachment. It was a coming-of-age gift, or my mother wore it every day, whether or not she left the house. The display case, with its hot, buzzing light, provides a barrier of decorum between us, gives me the immunity to touch their nostalgia. A woman hands me a drawstring pouch. I reach inside and pull out an imitation pearl necklace by its dirty string, exposed where the pearls have slipped off. When I dump the loose pearls onto a felt pad, flakes of pearlescent coating snow down onto it. Barely breathing, I arrange them by size with the tweezers. We need to substitute 3 5mm freshwater rounds, I say finally, indicating the gap, like a doctor analyzing an X-ray. As I reach for the calculator to quote her a price, I suddenly wish I could look older than my 20 years. Professionalism puts them at ease. Another day, we set to work wiring a tight silver cage around the edges of a small black shark tooth, while its owner waited at the coffee shop across the street. When the woman returned, she dangled the pendant in the crook of her palm. Her eyes glistened. Sorry, she said. I found this when I was a little girl, so it has sentimental value. I thought about that that something could be valued simply because it had been picked up and weighed in your smaller, younger hand. I remember a little glass sailboat that was flat and clear like melting ice, that fit snugly in my palm. It was the only object my mom rescued from her grandparents' farmhouse in Wisconsin. The sailboat had hung from a ceiling fan in one of the bedrooms. She told me that, as a child, she remembers staying in that sloping bedroom and hearing cars approach on the highway. I filled in the rest with my imagination. Perhaps their headlights reeled into that room for just a second and lit up the sailboat. Picturing her tucked in, safe, I felt nostalgic. Rubbing my fingers over the sail's clear grooves, I wanted my childhood to be written on it, too. The same thing happens at the bead store. Customers are pre-selecting sentimentality. Our inventory is massive, our merchandise is tiny, and this breeds an air of destiny. I'm gonna drink some water. Only one woman uses layaway at our store. Her name neatly printed at the top of an otherwise blank chart. She's in the process of buying a geisha, carved from a chunk of tomato red carnelian. We keep the figurine rolled up in a brown paper bag under the front counter, and the woman comes back weekly, not to make payments, but to visit. We blush and hand over the bag for a few minutes. She just speaks to me, the woman says. She's so dainty, she has to be mine. She stands in front of the mirror, pressing the stone against her freckled chest as if to shelter it. That stone isn't drilled, I say one day. She blinks at the mirror and recenters the stone girl. Then how will I wear her? My coworkers, Caitlin and Mallory and I, understand that the act of wearing consummates the object. Whenever possible, we indulge that feeling, lining up beads on the backs of our hands, in the grooves between our fingers. We must have been crows in another lifetime, Mallory says. Caitlin caws, and we giggle. But it's not just the sparkle. It's the fact that they bear the tiniest holes. Imagine the drill bit. We love the days of Swarovski crystal shipments because they come in discrete packages with specific net weights. It's like drugs, Caitlin swoons. We take turns unwrapping them like expensive chocolate bars, like the family from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Under a layer of cardstock, the paper scrapes open and we catch a glimpse of color, a flash of magenta or deep kelpy green. Thousands of 4mm crystals in a shapely mound. We are supposed to be counting out piles of 100, but for now we can only rake our fingers through them. Dawn looks up from her work desk, catches us, and smiles to herself. Though my fondness for stone and crystal is immediate, months go by before I begin to fall for the organics, the bone, wood, horn, and coral that fill mancala trays on a woven tablecloth in the middle of the room. At first, I attribute this to their drabness, the muted whites and browns, but something else makes them difficult. Their realness, the very thing that makes them magic, is hard to internalize. It must be projected onto them, because each organic object has a look-alike that never breathed. I misplaced the iridescent beetle wings with the foil enamel across the room, and the ancient tree-harvested amber with the dyed yellow stones. Later, when I discover my mistake, I hold the object and think, alive, alive, alive. Goosebumps appear on my arms. I soon learned that stones and their mood-enhancing properties are a religion within these brick walls. Suddenly, I am a metaphysical consultant, reading passages from the Stone Bible aloud. Malachite clears the way to attain goals, I say, holding up a strand of green stones. Do you have anything in particular you're trying to achieve right now? When I cite the book, no one questions my beliefs. Once, though, a man with cloudy glasses came in and was immediately drawn to a rock-sized piece of quartz. He called me over, placed it ceremoniously in my hand, and stood back. What am I supposed to feel? I asked. Just wait, he said. You need a grounding rod. Is there a metal pipe anywhere? We found a copper one hugging the brick wall behind the register. Holding the quartz chunk in one hand, I wrapped my fingers around the thin copper pipe. You feel it, he said, wiry eyebrows twitching. The vibrations? Try closing your eyes. I closed my eyes for a second, then snapped them open, suspicious that this might be an elaborate robbery plot. But he was just standing there, hoping. No, I said. It made me feel mean. Later, a woman in a red coat presents us with a bracelet made of human hair. It was my great-grandmother's, the woman sighs, an apology, and sets the bracelet on the counter between us. Her own dark hair is cropped close, earlobes sporting gold hoops. Caitlin and Mallory and I lean over it, examining the binding where the coffee-colored braid has come unglued from the clasp. But our not touching becomes conspicuous. I pick it up. It feels exactly as I thought it would, waxy like fishing line, completely ordinary, I think. My hand feels limp. We give the woman an order form and she leaves, heeled boots clicking out the door as she rushes off to a more important appointment. Mallory turns to us, incredulous. Sure, we can braid and glue your great-grandmother's nasty hair, no problem, she says with a can-do swing of the arm. On 3, I suggest, holding out my fist and my cupped palm for a round of rock, paper, scissors. When we tire of jewelry repair or of Windexing the endless glass surfaces, we wander into the bead-making studio in the back of the store. Dawn teaches classes here and sells studio time to the public, but her only customer is a retired woman named Ivy. Ivy buys 80 hours at a time. I find her bent over a flame at one of the workbenches. She looks up at me through her safety goggles, smiles at my interest. I watch her pinch white powder from a tray and sprinkle it into the molten bead as it forms. What's that? I ask, pointing. This is my friend's mother, her ashes anyway. She returns the hot blob to the flame. Eventually, I'm going to do the same thing with my mom. She's been waiting in my locker for months now. She laughs. I watch her swirl the flecks of ash on the bead's surface with a hooked tool. It looks like Jupiter, a little glass atmosphere. Ah, I say, it's beautiful. Then wonder if I should have said, she's beautiful. I make an excuse about work waiting for me and hurry to the cash register to tell Caitlin. I'm spooked, I whisper. I'm going to think about it every time I pass her locker. Caitlin shudders. We both look toward the back of the store. Would you want an ash bead? I ask suddenly. I mean a mom bead? When your mom... She squeezes her lips together. Maybe if someone else made it, I couldn't touch the ashes. Would you want one? I don't know, I say, but a little glass sailboat glides into my memory. It's a Saturday morning in March when I notice a girl my age consulting with Caitlin in hushed tones at the back of the store. Her hair is long, the color of cinnamon, and her hands flutter with a Kleenex as she explains something to Caitlin. She drifts toward me at the register with a single packet of silver clay, a substance non-jewelers can mold into charms. She stares at her cracked hands as she pays, doesn't hear me ask if she wants a bag. When the door jingles shut, Caitlin approaches me, slightly dazed. She's taking it back to the funeral home with her, she says, to get her grandmother's fingerprint. Within 15 minutes, the girl returns. She's balancing the clay on a napkin with great care, like a ring bearer. When she transfers it to Caitlin's hand, I can see it's been flattened into a white disc, bearing a deep thumbprint. We carry the clay back to the studio, then pause in front of the kiln, reverent. With a pair of tongs, Caitlin places the silver clay on the rack. I wonder whether the clay is warm or cold, whether traces of the girl's own arches, loops, and whorls mark its surface. Caitlin shuts the door and turns on the 2-hour fire. We leave the room before the tiny porthole floods with flames. I imagine the water burning away, the silver thumbprint being born. Afterward, you could press your thumb in her imprint, transfer your warmth to the cool metal. You could project, and it would be real. Thank you.